I'll say this. Prigozhin was engaged in information warfare. He was trying to make a point about the lack of support being provided by the Russian Ministry of Defense to the Wagner group. Um, but there's people that have talked to me who say that this is not the reality of the situation, and these are people who would know. And that Wagner is committed to the Bakhmut fight, and all they, and apparently, this is according to Telegram channels. Vladimir Putin brought Prigozhin and the Minister of Defense Shoigu in together into his office and told him to cease and desist, stop this nonsense. Um, he went through Shoigu and appointed Volkin, General Armageddon, to be the direct contact between the Ministry of Defense and Wagner. And Volkin will provide Wagner with the resources necessary to carry out the fight. Wagner's not withdrawing from the battlefield. Wagner continues to attack. And I think we're at the same situation that we are. This is a bloody meat grinder operation that Russia's winning. And I think the Ukrainians are, being bled out on the battlefield. But there's a lot of politics. I'll say that one of the things I'm discovering here is that if you think America's got some politics going on, Russia's got some politics going on too. So it's it's anybody who doesn't think that there's dissent in Russia, anybody who doesn't think that there's a multiplicity of opinions in Russia that are vocally expressed, you don't know Russia. This is not a dictatorship. This is not an authoritarian government. It is a time of war, so the government does have certain powers to intervene when they feel that the information war is being exploited improperly. But
Well, you're talking about there's a lot of dissent. Have you found yourself, for example, in any pubs with ordinary Russians having spirited debates about issues of the day? Have you been in any situations like that?
I wouldn't say pubs because, again, Jeff, there's a real security problem here. I mean, there are people trying to kill people. The Ukrainians are assassinating Russians, and I'm on that list. So the idea of me going to a pub and sitting down and pulling up and having a debate, that unfortunately that's not going to happen on this trip because there's a genuine security concern. But I have within the I do these presentations, and there's some very lively questions and answer. I went to the Writers Union the other day, and these are supposed to be the elite, the gentleman that arm wrestled. He was the director of the Writers Union. And so I had.
You crossed the picket line. You know, the writers are on strike here now. You crossed the picket line.
I'm in Russia, so I think it's a different.
Oh, it's okay. That's okay.
But I have to tell you that question and answer period was very vibrant. Yeah. I mean, it gets a little heated sometimes. No anger, no fighting. Just the idea that everybody's going to fawn over me and just say, "Oh, everything you say is great." No, they throw my words right back in my face and they challenge me, and we have a nice little give and take. I did a very interesting lunch in Novosibirsk with a group of bankers, and again the questions were spirited and of a provocative nature. So this isn't and today I'm going to be speaking before a class of international relations students, and they've given me a heads up on some of the questions they're going to ask. This is going to be a nice discussion. This isn't oh, listen to Scott Ritter and accept everything Scott Ritter says. That's not how it works. These guys are actively doing the debate, dialogue, and discussion aspect that you and I talk about.
Yeah. Those are my three favorite words in that combination. And you're doing a book event also tonight?
I am. I'm gonna go from getting destroyed by international relations students to a book event. All the book events have been very. Again, I think there's a lot of frustration from people about the security issues. But what I like to point out to people is this: what price is it worth to have a book event? I mean, how many lives are you willing to lose? Because one bomb going off in a crowd of people, it's just not worth it. So the events, they publicize them shortly before they occur. Usually, the only people that get immediate notification are people that are trusted. There's heavy security at these events, and
Well, let's take St. Petersburg for an example. We streamed that event, and that was a really good event, I thought. And it looked like it was in some kind of a bookstore or a hybrid of a bookstore that sells other things too. And they were showing some audience shots. Now, it wasn't the biggest venue in the world, but for what it was packed. There was standees as well as people
that's
seated.
how every single one of these events have been. I mean, you say there's other stuff. Go to Barnes and Nobles, and you'll see other stuff being sold too besides books.
Yeah.
The bookstore in St. Petersburg was a very nice bookstore, one of the older bookstores in the world. And the bookstore I was in Moscow was the biggest bookstore, one of the biggest bookstores in the world, a massive bookstore. And everybody understands that if they openly advertise this, that you could easily get 1,000 to 5,000 people to each event. But
So what
then,
do they do? They send out emails or social
oh,
media notices to what's that?
literally, I literally don't know how it works.
Oh, okay. So
You
in
know, I,
other words, I don't want to put you on the spot. I take it you're not going to say where tonight's event is because people are
to be
asking.
honest, I don't know
You
where
don't even know. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good reason not to reveal it. It kind of takes the decision right out of it. Mr. Anderson from Malmo, Sweden. Since he has no off ramp and the end is near, could Zelensky be seeking Russian retaliation so he can declare himself dead and disappear with all the money he embezzled?
I mean, he could. That's one thing. I just don't think he's that clever. He's either going to run like a coward or die like a dog. Um, that's his future. And we'll see. Again, let me backtrack on that because again, the Russians. It's interesting to get things from a Russian perspective.
Mhm.
And some Russians that I respect very much have said about Zelensky. They say, regardless of what you think about him, um, understand that he is leading a country at war. Um, he is able to motivate soldiers to fight and die on the battlefield. And yeah, we see the videos of the kidnapping and that's called mobilization, etc. We know that untrained Ukrainian soldiers go to the front, but there's a lot of very well trained, very motivated Ukrainian soldiers, and not all of them are Nazis. They're people fighting for their country, and and Zelensky is their leader. And you can sit there and we can mock him all, and I'm one that's guilty of it all the time. I mock him a lot, but here we are more than a year into this conflict, and Zelensky is leading his country, and people are following him. There's political problems in Ukraine, of course there are. There's political problems everywhere. There's political problems in Russia about this conflict. Um, but say what you will about him, mock him all you want. He's there. Ukrainians are fighting, and you have to give him his due. This is a
Right.
man who.
That's the thing about you. You're always very, you acknowledge tough competitors, regardless of other factors, favorable, disfavorable, whether you like them, don't like them. You always acknowledge a tough competitor.
He's leading the country in war, and the country hasn't surrendered yet, and it's fighting hard on the battlefield. So, he's doing something right.
All right. Nebojša Milunovic from Leskovac, Serbia. Is there a possibility that the drone attack on the Kremlin was planned and organized by the CIA as part of a plan to cause the physical liquidation of Zelensky as a reaction of Russia to the, quote, assassination attempt on the president of the Russian Federation, and thereby gain the possibility of getting out of this conflict? People do have their theories.
Look, the CIA has been capable of planning and executing many plots that in the aftermath people would scratch their head and say, what the hell were they thinking when they did that? So that's a possibility. I think more likely, if you take a look at where the drone went, it was targeted to the dome of the Kremlin. I think they were trying to take out the Russian flag. And I think it's a symbolic attack. This drone was not an assassination vessel. It didn't have a penetration warhead. Um, so this was purely an act of political terrorism, is what it was. It was a symbolic act designed to instill fear amongst the Russian people. But let me tell you this about the Russian people. They're concerned. I mean, there's no doubt they're not afraid. Um, they're resolved. They're resolute. Um, they don't have the same USA 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 kind of approach to comedy, because that's pretty shallow. I mean, to sit there on the street and shout USA 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 and then go home, pop a beer, and watch a football game, that's not patriotism. Um, these are people that are just quietly resigned to the fact that they are in an existential conflict, and that they're going to win.
Oh, wait a
And
minute. Weren't you glorifying that "oorah" chanting at the Russian parade earlier in this very podcast? Wasn't that you?
yeah, they were saying "oorah" because they beat the Nazis, 75 years ago. The Victory Day is about defeating Nazis. Victory Day is about the victory over Nazis. And this is a nation that suffered 27 million people dead at the hands of the Nazis. Every family here lost a family member. And so the nation comes together in honor and recognition of the sacrifice that was made to defeat Nazi Germany. That's what people don't understand. Yes, it has become also an expression of Russian, will, national will, military strength, etc. But the Russians would have liked nothing more than to have a battalion of American troops marching alongside them, recognizing that we were allies during that conflict. It breaks their hearts that that the West doesn't participate in this. That that
All right. Well,
they.
you sent me 5 different clips. You said you wanted people to hear it. I think I might know which clip is the one that has that. Should we play it and take a
Sure.
chance? All right. Let's give it a shot.
Wrong.
Long clip. Okay. You'll know it right away. Yeah.
Yeah, you start with the soldiers.
Is that it?
No,
Okay. 3 more. Is that it?
no, that's the missiles.
2 more.
Nope.
Oh, great. Well, I either don't have it at all or it's the very last one. Hang on a second here. Let me turn up the volume. Is that it?
Nope.
I thought I got all of them.
Well, maybe maybe I didn't send you it.
Oh, all right. Whatever.
Possibility too.
We tried. I tried.
Could be operator error on this end.
Maybe. All right. Well, we gave it a shot. So let's move on to our next question from Senor Dylan Martinez, Argentina. I get nightmares after watching videos of defenseless Russians shooting with 7.62s, no bazookas, at Ukrainian tanks approaching soon after being butchered in the trenches. What's up with that? It says a lot.
Anybody thinks that war is easy has never been to war. When we say that Russia's winning, Russia's prevailing, that's a big picture look at it. But if you tighten, if you tighten in on one part of the battlefield, you can get a photograph of a Ukrainian tank approaching a Russian trench with the Russian soldiers in the trench, fighting, with light weapons because they've exhausted their ability to resist, and then they get killed. It's war. That happens. It's chaotic. You can have all the nightmares you want. How about the nightmare of having 120 Ukrainian soldiers huddled against a wall in Bakhmut to have a 500-pound or 500 kilogram bomb level the building, killing them all at once? Do you have any nightmares about that? Do you have any nightmares about the Ukrainian vehicles running the gauntlet of death into the Bakhmut, rolling the dice every turn they make, dying? Do you have nightmares about that? Do you have nightmares about everybody that dies on the battlefield? Do you think this is easy? My God, man, war is hard. War is bloody. War is awful. It's a give and take. I just told you the Ukrainians are fighting like, beasts. So yeah, every once in a while, the Ukrainians gain the upper hand tactically. But you need to know the difference between a tactical action, an operational action, and a strategic action. The Russians are winning 9 out of every 10 tactical actions. That means 1 out of 10 times the Ukrainians are going to get a tactical advantage. And if they film it, it makes it look pretty bad. Death ain't easy, guys. death ain't easy. And if you're a soldier on the battlefield facing a tank or facing artillery or facing other infantry that have gained a tactical advantage on you, you tend to die. So yeah, have all the nightmares you want about that scene, but that means that you're singularly focused on that scene and you don't give a damn about the rest of the war. I don't mean to get angry.
All right, this is the morning version of Scotty on Fire. John D. from Poland, Krakow, which I've seen spelled in various ways. That's how John D. spelled it. Please reveal the estimated losses of both sides of conflict. The Polish media are full of propaganda and Russophobia, so I doubt I would get any credible information from them, especially that they are starting to glorify the Azov battalion.
Look, there's reports that General Zaluzhny told Mark Miley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, back earlier this year, that the Ukrainians have suffered somewhere in the order of 270,000 dead, another 300,000 wounded. Since that time, the Bakhmut meat grinders probably chewed up another 50,000 Ukrainian dead. You can add another 10, 15,000 Ukrainian dead elsewhere in the battlefield. So, you know, we're and then in that number with Mark Milley, we're, you know, around 80,000 missing, I think, and you can assume of that 80,000 missing that around 60,000 of those are dead bodies abandoned on the battlefield that have yet to be recovered and acknowledged. So, you know, we're talking horrific numbers, over 320,000 Ukrainian dead. That's a huge number, by the way, and some people, including myself, are reflecting on that, wondering just how the hell that can happen, because that's a level of intensity that it's mind-boggling. You know, the Russians have, you know, the Russian military. The problem with calculating Russian casualties is, you know, when the Russian Ministry of Defense releases Ministry of Defense numbers, they're only talking about the Ministry of Defense. They're not talking about Wagner. They're not talking about other volunteer or police units or the Chechens. So calculating the Russian numbers is a little bit more difficult, but I think we could, you know, safely say when you calculate everything together that you're probably looking at around 40,000 dead Russians. That's a big number, and you're looking at another, you know, 60,000 wounded Russians. So that's 100,000 Russian casualties. That's a big number. That's just a rough guesstimate. I'm not here to make anything official. I don't have official data, but you know, you asked me to do a rough guesstimate. There it is.
Okay. So we were kidding before you left for Russia that you might be losing your time slot because we have Tyler McConnell and Laurie Spencer debuting.
But we're not kidding anymore, right? I lost it.
Well, we were kidding about it, but look what we're going to be doing tomorrow night. Ask the Communist. Now, you could look at that as paying homage to you and me in the show we usually do, or you could look at it as maybe they're trying to usurp this asking the so-and-so question.
Oh, yeah. Tyler and I are going to have some words. Lori, I can't never do. I can't get angry at a woman. But Tyler, bring it on, man. We're going to have arm wrestling.
Well, tomorrow night's guest is Caleb Maupin, and he and Tyler self-identify as communists. And I think this is a Laurie Spencer idea to do Ask the Inspector tomorrow night. And maybe we can just get a little more info on that from Caleb and Tyler. Here are the commies.
Oh, God help us.